The Nova Interstellar Tactical Academy, NITA to those familiar with its reputation, hung like a gleaming metallic wreath around a central star in a neutral star cluster. Its curved corridors and geometric training facilities were home to the galaxy's most elite military program, where species from across known space competed for positions in interstellar defense forces. The Academy prided itself on diversity, though beneath the surface ran undercurrents of competition between species, each silently asserting the superiority of their evolutionary advantages. Into this environment of thinly veiled biological elitism stepped Alex Rider, the first human admitted to NITA under a controversial experimental exchange program. Unlike the other cadets, the rock-skinned Xylosians, the four-armed Cthar with their lightning reflexes, or the energy-absorbing Zyborians, Alex appeared unremarkable. No extra limbs, no protective carapace, no enhanced sensory organs visible to the casual observer. Just a standard-issue uniform on a standard-issue human frame. Baseline readings indicate physiological fragility at concerning levels, announced the medical examiner, a floating array of sensory equipment controlled by a meridian consciousness specialist. The statement echoed through the initial assessment chamber as Alex stood calmly in the center of a three-dimensional scanning field. Skeletal density insufficient for standard combat scenarios. Dermis offers negligible protection against energy weapons. Muscle fiber arrangement inefficient for sustained exertion. Commander Grornak, a towering Grorner warrior whose skin resembled volcanic obsidian, flicked through the holographic readout with evident skepticism. These can't be right. How did this specimen even qualify for the entrance examinations? This specimen, Alex interjected with a slight smile, is standing right here, Commander. Grornak's volcanic eyes narrowed. I'm well aware, human rider. My question stands. Perhaps the human compensates through other means, suggested the examiner, rotating a three-dimensional model of Alex's internal structure. Intelligence metrics are within acceptable parameters. Just acceptable. Alex raised an eyebrow. Psychological resilience appears above average. The examiner continued, ignoring the interruption. Grornak made a dismissive sound somewhere between a snort and a growl. We'll see how long that lasts. I give it one standard week. As Alex exited the assessment chamber, whispers followed. Wagers were already being placed on how quickly the human would wash out, or worse, be carried out. The next morning, Training Squad Delta assembled in the Mars-like terrain of Simulation Chamber 3. Alex stood alongside 5 other cadets, including Trina, a female Xylosian whose crystalline skin reflected the artificial sunlight in prismatic patterns, and Zorp, a slender Zyborian whose translucent blue skin revealed pulsing electrical currents running through his nervous system. Today's exercise is simple. Grornak's voice boomed over the speakers. Navigate the obstacle course while gravity fluctuates between 0.8 and 1.7 standard G. Complete the course within time parameters. Fail, and you'll repeat the exercise until you succeed or require medical evacuation. The gravity shifted suddenly, and Alex felt a familiar heaviness press down. The human didn't flinch as several teammates momentarily struggled to adjust. The team moved through the course methodically, over red dust dunes, across unstable rocky platforms, and finally toward a shimmering energy barrier. Low-level electrical deterrent, Zorp murmured, his skin flickering nervously at the sight of the energy wall. Not lethal, but exceptionally uncomfortable for my kind. I'll go first, Alex offered, approaching the barrier without hesitation. As the human pushed through, there was a visible discharge of energy, and Alex's body briefly tensed. Zorp winced in sympathetic anticipation. For a Zyborian, even that level of electrical discharge would cause temporary paralysis. He waited for the human to collapse. Instead, Alex merely rubbed the affected arm, rolled shoulders, and turned back to the group. Stings a bit, but it's manageable. Come on, Zorp, I'll help you through. From the observation deck, Grornak watched with narrowed eyes as the human assisted each teammate across the barrier. The commander made a notation in his tablet. Interesting. In a hand-to-hand combat arena 2 days later, the squad faced off against Level 2 training robots, metal humanoids programmed to test basic defensive capabilities and pain tolerance. These weren't designed to cause serious injury, merely to assess a cadet's response to discomfort and minor impacts. Alex circled a robot opponent, exchanging basic strikes and blocks. The machine detected an opening and swept out with a metal arm, catching Alex's legs and sending the human crashing to the floor. The metal kneecap struck the deck with a sickening thunk that made Trina wince despite her crystalline exterior. The robot froze, its programming dictating a pause to allow the cadet to signal surrender or continuation. Everyone expected the typical response, a grimace, perhaps a request for a moment to recover. Pain was, after all, a universal language, even if its thresholds vary by species. Instead, Alex stood up, dusted off the uniform, took 2 slightly limping steps, and then resumed a fighting stance. "Continue sequence," the human commanded, seemingly unbothered. The observing cadets exchanged glances. Trina tilted her crystalline head. "Did you see that?" she whispered to Zorp. "The human should be experiencing significant discomfort," the Zyborian replied, his electrical patterns fluctuating with confusion. When the session ended, Alex's knee showed visible swelling. Grornak approached, arms folded across his massive chest. "Medical Bay, Cadet Rider." "It's nothing, Commander. Just a bump." "That wasn't a suggestion." Alex sighed. "Honestly, it'll be fine in an hour or 2. Hardly worth bothering the medical staff over." Grornak's volcanic eyes scrutinized the human. "Are all humans this stubborn about injuries? Or is it just you?" Alex grinned. "Bit of both, probably." The commander grunted and walked away, but not before making another notation in his tablet. In the academy mess hall that evening, conversations hushed momentarily as Alex entered, walking with only the slightest hint of discomfort. Trina gestured to an empty seat at her table. "Your knee recovered quickly," she observed as Alex sat down. "Told you it would," Alex replied, selecting something that approximated a sandwich from the food dispenser. "Not my first bruise." Zorp's electrical patterns flickered with curiosity. "Your species has unusually rapid recovery mechanisms for soft tissue damage." Alex shrugged. "Not sure about unusually. It's just a bruise. No big deal where I come from. A direct impact sufficient to produce that sound would have fractured my sensory nodules," Zorp noted, indicating the cluster of nerve bundles near his joints. "Different physiologies, different thresholds," Alex said between bites. "I'm sure there are things that would floor me, but you'd shrug off." "Like electrical discharge," Trina pointed out. "Exactly." The incident became a small talking point among Squad Delta, but was soon overshadowed by the increasing intensity of training. 3 weeks into the program, the cadets faced their first environmental hazard simulation, an artificial lava field with toxic atmospheric components and limited visibility. Each cadet was fitted with standard protective gear, reinforced boots, filtration masks, and heat-resistant gloves. The exercise was simple in concept. Retrieve data modules from various points across the field while avoiding pockets of intensified heat and toxic gas concentrations. Halfway through the exercise, Alex noticed a small tear in the left glove's material. For most species, this would be concerning but not immediately dangerous. The human continued the exercise, occasionally flexing the exposed hand when it came too close to heat sources. As the squad exited the simulation chamber, Trina noticed Alex examining the reddened palm. "Your protection equipment malfunctioned," she stated, her crystalline eyes widening as she saw the blistered skin. "You require medical attention." "It's just a minor burn," Alex replied. "It'll be fine." "Your dermis is clearly damaged," she insisted. "Trust me, it looks worse than it feels. It'll heal in a day or 2. Trina's crystalline features couldn't express confusion in human terms, but her voice conveyed it perfectly. "You experienced direct heat exposure sufficient to cause visible tissue damage, yet you completed the exercise without notification." Alex shrugged. It wasn't bad enough to jeopardize the mission objectives. The Xylosian stared at the human for a long moment. "You are unexpected, Alex Ryder." Reports of the human cadet's curious behavior began filtering through to the Academy's administrative levels. Gornak reviewed training footage, noting multiple instances where Alex had sustained what should have been distracting injuries, yet continued functioning with minimal indication of discomfort. During a target practice session with long-range energy weapons, an incident occurred that couldn't be so easily dismissed. The cadets were training with Level 1 stun weapons, low-powered but still capable of causing temporary nervous system disruption in most species. Klar, a four-armed Kthar cadet with remarkable aim, lost focus for a critical moment when the gravity briefly fluctuated. His weapon discharged, the energy beam grazing Alex's lower leg. A wisp of smoke rose from the scorched uniform material. Everyone froze. Even at low power, a direct hit from these weapons would incapacitate a Xylosian for hours. The training. Ground fell silent as all eyes turned to the human. Alex looked down at the smoking fabric, then at the horrified Kthar cadet. "Well," the human said dryly, "I think this uniform has seen better days." The red mark on Alex's calf was angry and blistered, but the human merely limped over to the range officer. "Permission to continue the exercise, sir?" The officer, a veteran Meridian, hovered in stunned silence before finding his voice. "Denied, cadet. Report to medical immediately." "It's really not. That was not a suggestion, Cadet Ryder." By day's end, the Academy's chief medical officer, Dr. Lyra, a sentient energy being whose form shimmered like a miniature galaxy, had been personally notified of the anomalies surrounding Cadet Ryder. "I want a full physiological workup," she instructed her staff, her voice a harmonic resonance that vibrated the air itself. "And I want to observe the next high-intensity training exercise personally." That opportunity came sooner than expected. 3 days later, Squad Delta was scheduled to enter the Crucible, NIDA's most challenging training environment. A chaotic battlefield simulation with unstable terrain, surprise traps, and elite combat drones. Dr. Lyra positioned herself in the observation booth alongside Gornak and the other training officers. Initial scans still show nothing remarkable about human riders' physiology, she noted, her energy form pulsing with curiosity. Compared to Academy standards, the readings remain concerningly fragile. Gornak grunted. Yet the cadet continues to function after incidents that would sideline others. "Hence my interest," Lyra responded, her attention fixed on the monitors as Squad Delta entered the simulation chamber. The Crucible lived up to its reputation immediately. The squad had barely established their entry position when the first ambush struck. 300 drones descending from concealed ceiling compartments. The cadets responded with practiced coordination, taking cover behind rocky outcroppings in the narrow canyon they were traversing. Alex demonstrated surprising tactical awareness, directing suppressing fire while Zorp circled to flank. Trina, with her resilient crystalline form, provided mobile cover for Klar, who used all 4 arms to devastating effect with dual weapons. The skirmish intensified as more drones joined the engagement. Energy weapons fire scorched the canyon walls, destabilizing the already precarious rock formations above. Alex noticed the danger first. "Trina, shift position. The rocks above you are unstable." The Xylosian looked up just as a particularly powerful blast struck near her position. The artificial stone structure groaned ominously. Trina attempted to move, but cried out. Her foot was wedged between 2 rocks. Alex didn't hesitate. As the massive rock formation began to collapse, the human sprinted toward Trina, ignoring the continuing weapons fire from the drones. With a desperate lunge, Alex slammed into the Xylosian, shoving her clear of the rock slide's path. Trina tumbled to safety, but Alex wasn't as fortunate. The human managed to avoid the main collapse, but couldn't escape completely. A substantial portion of the rock formation crashed down, pinning Alex's leg and hip beneath its weight. The impact was sickening. Dust billowed through the canyon, temporarily obscuring the scene. The drones automatically ceased fire, their safety protocols engaging when the environment detection systems registered a serious accident. In the observation booth, alarms blared. Dr. Lyra's energy form flared with concern. Medical team to the crucible immediately. When the dust settled, the scene revealed Trina unharmed but visibly shaken. And there was Alex, partially buried under the rubble, leg bent at an unnatural angle. Blood, startlingly red to species accustomed to different hues, began seeping from beneath the rocks. Grornak and the other cadets rushed forward, working frantically to lift the debris. What they revealed was horrific by any medical standard. Alex's leg was crushed, bone clearly visible through torn flesh, twisted in a way that anatomy was never meant to accommodate. Blood pooled beneath the injured human. By all medical knowledge in the academy, such an injury should cause immediate shock, loss of consciousness, and potentially death if not treated with advanced regenerative technology within minutes. Yet Alex remained conscious, face contorted with pain, but somehow still alert. Through gritted teeth, the human managed to speak. "Damn, this is going to need more than a bandage, isn't it?" Dr. Lyra's medical team arrived with emergency transport equipment. As they carefully moved Alex onto the hovering stretcher, the human looked down at the mangled leg and said with grim humor, "Well, this definitely looks worse than I thought. Does anyone have a bandage? And please, nobody faint on my account." The medical bay of Nita was a marvel of interstellar healing technology. Regeneration chambers, molecular reconstructors, and nanosurgical suites stood ready to address any conceivable injury. Dr. Lyra's energy form pulsed with intense concentration as she reviewed the three-dimensional scans of Alex's injuries. "By all standard physiological metrics, you should be unconscious from shock," she stated, her harmonic voice betraying her scientific confusion. The pain response alone from this level of trauma would render most sentient beings incapable of coherent thought. Alex, still awake on the examination table, offered a pain-tightened smile. "Sorry to confuse your equipment." "You're not confusing the equipment, Cadet Rider. You're confusing medical science." Lyra's form shimmered with what might have been exasperation. "Our recommended procedure is clear. Deep sedation, synthetic bone replacement, artificial blood transfusion, and nanocellular repair." "That sounds extensive." "It is the standard protocol for catastrophic limb trauma." Alex shifted slightly, wincing. "Any less invasive options?" "I prefer to let my body do as much of the work as possible." The medical team exchanged glances, or in Lyra's case, energy fluctuations that conveyed the same sentiment. "Cadet Rider, perhaps you don't understand the severity." "Understand I have a badly broken leg," Alex interrupted. "But I also understand that human bodies are pretty good at healing themselves given the right support." After considerable debate, a compromise was reached. Alex would receive localized pain management rather than full sedation. The bones would be manually reset, a procedure so intensely painful that no patient remained conscious through it without chemical intervention, and stabilized with an external frame rather than replaced. "I must register my professional objection to this approach," Dr. Lyra noted for the record. "Objection noted," Alex replied. "Let's get on with it." The procedure began. As the medical team manipulated the shattered bones back into alignment, Alex's face went sheet white, sweat pouring down in rivulets. The human's jaw clenched so tight it seemed the teeth might crack, but not a single scream emerged. Only the occasional earth expletive that the translation systems couldn't quite process. The attending medical staff watched in horrified fascination. One Kthar nurse dropped an instrument, her four hands trembling in sympathetic response. "How are you still conscious?" she whispered. Alex, breathing in controlled gasps, managed a tight smile. "Practice." When the bones were finally set and the stabilization frame attached, Dr. Lyra conducted a comprehensive blood analysis. The results were perplexing. "Your hemoglobin shows unprecedented oxygenation efficiency, and these white blood cell counts." Her energy form pulsed with scientific excitement. Your immune system is responding with what I can only describe as aggressive enthusiasm. Is that good or bad? Alex asked, color slowly returning to the human's face. It's unexpected, as is your continued consciousness. News of the incident spread rapidly throughout the academy. The human cadet who got crushed by rocks and stayed awake became the topic of conversation in every dormitory and mess hall. A steady stream of curious visitors found reasons to pass by the medical bay's waiting area, hoping for updates. Trina was a frequent visitor, often bringing what she called xylogen bone-strengthening snacks, crystalline confections that resembled geodes. I'm not sure these are compatible with human digestion, Alex noted, examining one skeptically. Perhaps not, Trina admitted. But the gesture is what matters, yes? This is a human custom I have studied. It is, and I appreciate it. Alex smiled. How are the others? Confused. Impressed. Gornak has been reviewing all your previous training footage. He seems disturbed. That wasn't my intention. Trina's crystalline features caught the light as she tilted her head. You saved my life, Alex Ryder. At great personal cost. Anyone would have done the same. No, she said firmly. They would not. Tactical protocol would dictate abandoning a trapped team member when structural collapse is imminent. Alex shrugged, then winced at the movement. Then tactical protocol needs revision. 5 days after the accident, Dr. Lyra conducted another scan. Her energy form flickered with what could only be described as scientific shock. This is impossible, she declared. The rate of bone knitting and tissue regeneration exceeds any recorded healing process in our medical database. Good news, then? Alex asked hopefully. Unexplainable news. We introduced medical nanobots to accelerate scar reduction, and your immune system destroyed them. Is that bad? It's unprecedented. Your body apparently identifies any foreign microentity as a threat and eliminates it with remarkable efficiency. Lyra's form pulsed with academic excitement. I've had to completely rewrite your medical profile. The implications for comparative xenobiology are staggering. 2 weeks after the incident, a time frame that had initially been estimated at 2 months for even minimal mobility, Alex was insisting on removing the stabilization frame. Scans indicate the bones have fused sufficiently for limited weight bearing. Dr. Lyra conceded reluctantly. But this defies all projected recovery models. So I'm ahead of schedule, Alex said with a smile. That's good, right? It's scientifically confounding. With the external frame removed, Alex began physical rehabilitation, first with support devices, then with a slight limp, and finally, to the continued amazement of the medical staff, with a nearly normal gait just 3 weeks after an injury that should have resulted in permanent disability without technological intervention. Commander Gornak personally observed one of the rehabilitation sessions. Your species, he rumbled, watching Alex complete a set of strength exercises, continues to surprise me, Cadet Ryder. We're full of surprises, Commander. The Grorner's volcanic eyes studied the human thoughtfully. Perhaps we have been measuring the wrong qualities in our assessment protocols. By the time Alex returned to modified training duties, the human had become something of a legend at NIDA. Instructors began using the incident as a case study in their lectures on resilience and determination. Dr. Lyra's preliminary paper on the Ryder phenomenon was generating significant interest in xenobiology circles across the galaxy. The remainder of the training cycle passed with Alex, continuing to accumulate minor injuries that would have sidelined others, but seemed to barely register in the human's consciousness. A burn here, a cut there, all treated with the same casual attitude. It'll heal. Trina and the other members of Squad Delta developed a new appreciation for their human teammate, and a saying began to circulate among them. Do a Ryder, meaning to push through pain or difficulty with stubborn determination. When graduation day arrived 6 months later, NIDA's Great Hall was filled with dignitaries from across the galaxy. The Supreme Chancellor of the Academy, an ancient entity whose wisdom spanned millennia, delivered the commencement address. The greatest lesson NIDA can teach, the Chancellor intoned, his voice resonating through the hall, is not found in tactical manuals or weapon specifications. It is the understanding that limitation is often merely a failure of perspective. The Chancellor's gaze swept across the graduates, lingering momentarily on Alex. This year, we have been reminded that what appears fragile may possess strengths beyond our conventional understanding. After the formal ceremonies concluded, an unexpected announcement followed. The establishment of a new training division at NIDA, Unconventional Tactics and Extreme Adaptation. Despite having just graduated, Alex Ryder was invited to remain at the Academy as a special advisor and instructor for this unit. Additionally, the Chancellor continued, "We are proud to announce the creation of the Ryder Resilience Scholarship, dedicated to individuals who demonstrate extraordinary will and recovery capabilities, regardless of species." At the reception afterward, Alex stood surrounded by well-wishers, the slight remaining limp barely noticeable. "So you're staying?" Trina observed, her crystalline form gleaming in her new officer's uniform. "Looks that way," Alex replied with a smile. "Apparently, I still have things to teach." Gornak approached, his massive form impressive in formal military attire. "Instructor Ryder," he acknowledged with a respectful inclination of his head. "The first day you arrived, I gave you 1 standard week. I have never been so pleased to be proven wrong." "Thank you, Commander. Though technically, I did end up in medical within that week." The Groner's face split in what might have been a smile. "Yes, but you walked out far sooner than anyone predicted." Dr. Lyra's energy form shimmered nearby. "My research team has officially named a new medical phenomenon after you, Instructor Ryder. Ryder's resilience, the unexpected capacity to endure and recover from traumatic injury through natural biological processes." "I'm honored," Alex said, "though it seems a bit much for something all humans can do." "That's precisely what makes it remarkable," Lyra responded. "What your species considers ordinary, the rest of the galaxy finds extraordinary." NIDA was never quite the same after Alex Ryder's arrival. The concept of normal had been fundamentally redefined. The phrase "pulling a Ryder" entered the Academy lexicon, referring to overcoming seemingly impossible situations through sheer will and inexplicable luck. As Alex looked toward a future at NIDA, ready for new challenges as an instructor, the human couldn't help but smile at how a simple ability to endure pain and heal, so commonplace on Earth, had challenged an entire galaxy's understanding of strength and resilience. In a final bit of irony, the Academy's administrative AI occasionally experienced logic errors when attempting to categorize reports involving Alex Ryder, and periodically issued automated requests for additional data on Homo sapien species. Note: appears to challenge known laws of physics and biology. The human cadet had gotten injured during training and walked it off like nothing happened. And in doing so, had walked straight into galactic legend.